Hello, I'm Frank Coe, one of your guides through this video tour of Natchitoches, Louisiana. Before we view the spectacular lights along the riverbank, let's look at the area that will soon be a part of the national park system and examine the history of a community known as the oldest settlement in the Louisiana Purchase. Cane River, once the gateway to the west and the main channel of the mighty Red River, is now a 34-mile recreational lake. Most fishermen and skiers enjoying this beautiful area are unaware that they are following the path taken by the first white men to settle an area that is now covered by 15 states. In 1714, Louis Antoine Juchereau de Saint-Denis led an expedition from what is now Mobile, Alabama, to establish an outpost on the western edge of the French New World holdings. At the village of the Natchitoches Indians, they encountered the Great Red River Raft, a tremendous log jam that stretched some 160 miles to the north. Although this 1,000-year-old pile of erosion halted the expedition, the meeting of this particular tribe was critical to his mission's success. A branch of the Caddo Nation, the Natchitoches tribe were farmers famous for their trading skill. Quick to see a profit in doing business with this bold French cavalier, they were eager to establish long-term relations with such a rich provider. 2 blockhouses were erected, and by 1716, Fort Saint Jean-Baptiste had established trade with the neighboring tribes. An uncertain relationship began with Los Adias, the Spanish capital of Texas, established 15 miles to the west. Built after St. Denis' venture into their territory, Los Adias was a mission meant to discourage other forays by the French. With only the Catholic religion in common, these 2 outposts would change Louisiana and the rest of the world forever.
But another thing that we're known for is the original Creole city of Louisiana. There's 3 Creole communities in Louisiana: Natchitoches, Opelousas, and New Orleans. Creole is a derivative from a Spanish word. It means created now, a new people, a new colony. Creole. The accepted definition of Creole in Louisiana is any of the French or Spanish people who were here prior to the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. So if you meet a Creole person today, they would be the descendant of one of the French or Spanish that was here back before Napoleon sold the territory. The founder of Natchitoches, Louis Juchereau de Saint-Denis, is considered to be the father of the Creole people because once he had founded the fort here, trade material was difficult to come by. There was still very little contact with the old world. France and Spain were at war in Europe, and they were also involved in a world war, and they didn't have time to properly take care of their New World colonists over here. So Saint-Denis saw the need to establish trade with the Spaniards over in Texas, and he took it upon himself to go over into Texas and negotiate. Sure enough, they did arrest him when he got there, took him to the Spanish governor, held him prisoner. They interrogated him, put him into the dungeons. But he was one of the really great diplomats of Louisiana. He eventually talked his way out of trouble. While he was there, he established trade with the Spaniards, and he even married the Spanish governor's granddaughter and brought her back to Natchitoches with him. And that started the rapport between the French and Spanish colonists that led to the origin of the Creole people. Now, he may not have been the first to establish a relationship with a Spanish girl, but he was the first recorded.
For over 100 years, this area was known as Les Côtes Joyeuses, or the Joyous Coast. Pole barges and steamboats docked laden with precious supplies for westbound settlers. In return, they took aboard local products. Deer and buffalo hides, cotton and tobacco were shipped to outside markets from the oldest port west of the Mississippi. As time passed, the town's architecture grew to reflect the French roots of a society which even the turn of the century could not sway. Streets were bricked and modern convenience employed, but the town was destined to retain the flavor of a lifestyle older than the Declaration of Independence.
In 1941, a group of ladies interested in preserving our rich heritage formed an organization they later chartered as the Association of Natchitoches Women for the Preservation of Historic Natchitoches. Now known as the APHN, they are 350 members strong, and their efforts have preserved one of the area's largest tourist attractions, Melrose Plantation.
The dress I'm wearing is the official costume adopted by the association after carefully researching the attire of the women in the early 1800s. The costumes are worn during the October Home Tour and for the reenactment of the historic saving of the bricks on Front Street. In the 1950s, several of the ladies in the organization threatened to lie down in front of the bulldozers when the State Department of Highways came in to pave over the bricks on Front Street. A phone call was made to then Governor Earl K. Long, and when he was told there were hundreds of ladies downtown on Front Street protesting, he quickly conceded, and the bricks remain today.
Memories of the famous and infamous walk these streets. After discovering Pike's Peak in 1806, Zebulon Pike followed the Red River south, and a year later encountered an established civilization at Natchitoches. Two future presidents were stationed in the area. Colonel Zachary Taylor and Lieutenant Ulysses S. Grant were young officers on this once rugged frontier. Davy Crockett and Jim Bowie passed through on their fateful trip to Texas, and authors such as Kate Chopin and Harriet Beecher Stowe soaked in the atmosphere and related it to the rest of the world in verse and story. It's no wonder that in these times, Hollywood has made use of the area as a backdrop for films as varying as our heritage. The Horse Soldiers was the first major motion picture to be filmed here. In 1959, it was deemed John Ford's most lavish film and brought the immortal John Wayne, William Holden, and the beautiful Constance Towers to our very doorstep. The movie was a true story of the raid by Colonel Grierson's Union Cavalry Brigade on Newton Station, Mississippi. This maneuver brought about the fall of Vicksburg and delivered a severe blow to the Confederacy. Natchitoches was chosen because of the abundant supply of antebellum homes, and oddly enough, the fact that our telephone lines were strung in the same manner as telegraph lines of the time period. The next two times we were turned into a soundstage, it was for scripts written by local authors. The Man in the Moon by Jenny Wingfield, and Robert Harling's Steel Magnolias, the story of Southern women who stood as tall as the Duke himself.
TriStar Productions searched the nation over for the proper place to film Steel Magnolias. Small towns in East Texas and large cities in Georgia were turned down when the location crew discovered that the perfect place they were looking for was right where the story itself was born. Robert Harling's off-Broadway hit was based on his real-life family and his sister's battle with diabetes for a normal marriage and family of her own. Susan Harling knew that becoming pregnant was ill-advised, but having a child was a priority in her life. She judged worth the risk. Unfortunately, after the birth of a son, Susan's health deteriorated, forcing a kidney transplant, which her mother unselfishly donated to no avail. You might think this too tragic a premise for what is described as a comedy, but the author wove this touching story of a mother-daughter relationship around other battles in a small town. Beauty shop gossip at Truby's, a young woman's effort to start a new life and find herself, and the sarcastic relationship of neighbors who would be more at home in the feudal days, all blend to create a delightful story mirroring life in a small town and the attitude of many Southerners. Steel Magnolias was and is a movie that Natchitoches and the rest of the world will cherish forever.
In Natchitoches, history is not confined to textbooks. It has a physical quality that visitors can actually touch. With some of our buildings being the last examples of whole eras of architecture, it is the perfect location for a proposed National Center for Preservation at Northwestern State University. The efforts of many organizations and individuals are responsible for this unique place. But saving buildings is not the only thing folks around here think about. We like to have fun. There are 5 major festivals in town each year and 9 monthly Cavalier Trade Days. It all begins with the Spring Jubilee in April, where we celebrate the founding of the city and the end of winter. June brings the Melrose Arts and Crafts Festival. This combination of exhibits from the past is always a treat for the young and old alike. At the height of the summer, we move into the air-conditioned Prather Coliseum for the NSU Folk Festival. Always the 3rd weekend in July, artisans and craftsmen show their handiwork to the beat of live music for 3 fun-filled days. With fall comes the Tour of Homes, giving the public the opportunity to visit private homes restored to their original elegance. Owners remove all modern convenience and turn back the pages of time for a glance into our forefathers' lifestyle. Nearing Christmas, the town braces for the granddaddy of them all, the Mardi Gras of North Louisiana, the Natchitoches Christmas Festival. In 1927, the city superintendent of utilities, Mr. Max Bergdorf, read about the new invention on the market, the 10-watt Christmas light bulb. He obtained enough of these bulbs to erect a single Star of David and began a gleaming tradition of unrivaled beauty along the Cane River. By the first Saturday in December, all is in readiness when an average 150,000 people arrive for the festival. 2 parades and hundreds of food booths entertain visitors waiting for dusk and the fabulous Zambelli Brothers fireworks show that precedes the turning on of the lights. The Christmas Festival Committee, city employees, and local law enforcement officials are to be congratulated for their efforts which have kept this one of the top 100 events in the South. There are a lot of mighty nice people that make up Natchitoches, folks who believe in a quality of life now lost in many other parts of America. I'm going to leave you now with a tour of the Riverbank Lights, but I hope you've enjoyed our film and hope to see you soon where history is made daily. Natchitoches, Louisiana.